What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Alabama Head to Head, brought to you by our awesome sponsors. Keep Alabama beautiful. And it is a big week coming off a bye week for Alabama, coming off of Halloween weekend. It is time to get back to business as Alabama gets ready to take on LSU at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We're going head to head.
Oh, let's go now. Oh, now, now.
There he is, Mike the Real McCoy, hanging out at his gym, Maximum Performance, doing his thing, giving us a little flex. Ooh, 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 ooh.
That's right.
Love it. Hey, did you have a good Halloween weekend, my friend?
I did. Got a chance to take the baby boy out and my niece and nephew. So we had a good time last night.
Oh, love it. Love it. Trick or treat, happy Halloween, everyone having a good weekend, I hope. And now it's time to turn the page because November is here, a November to remember, hopefully, for the Alabama Crimson Tide. They get ready to take on LSU. Now, here's the deal. Alabama coming off wins over Mississippi State and Tennessee after the upset to Texas A&M. Now, of course, they've tried to right that ship, sort of, set that record straight. They control their own destiny. They went out. They still end up going to the SEC championship to play most likely Georgia. We can just speculate there. But first, we got to get through this first game in November against LSU. And, this game doesn't quite have the luster that it used to. LSU 4-4 in the season, Edo out after this season. And, I would say that when you go to Bryant-Denny Stadium, typically with this LSU game, it's sort of the game of the century. And you tend to see a lot of purple and gold. Well, here's the deal, Mike. LSU actually even sent back some of the tickets in their allotment that they had. So the expectation is there's not going to be too many LSU fans here at this one. Another thing to kind of look at, Edo stated last week that they didn't have enough players to compete in its bye-week scrimmage. So the thought there is a mix of players that are injured. They've entered the transfer portal, one or the other. They really just lack a lot of depth. So I don't know how this one's going to shake out. I just don't think this LSU team is nearly what it used to be. And Alabama, well, I don't want to say they're not going to have their hands full because certainly you don't want this to be a trap game, but this is not going to be the Alabama-LSU matchup that we're used to seeing.
Without question, just honestly, I feel like anytime you have a university that fires a coach in the middle of the season, I feel like that is toxic weight room. I mean, that is just toxic. You take away the morale, the team chemistry. You're going to let the man go. Do it after the season. But just for me, I think this is where Alabama takes advantage of this game and really work on what they need to. You give your younger guys experience and you rest your starters. That's what I would do.
Well, yeah, and again, I just think that, Alabama has certainly, come in stride. There have been some deficiencies. There have been some inconsistencies, and I think that is certainly one area that, has struck some concern. But on the offensive side of the football, Mike, you still have the Heisman frontrunner leading the way. He is trending upwards, still improving every single week, creating balance on offense and his ability to make big plays. I think that's a key piece here. He's also showing some mobility and ability on his feet. And then you've got Jamison Williams continuing that threat, the number one receiver. Now, I know a lot of people kind of talking about John Mechie not necessarily stepping up and thinking he was the receiver that he was anticipated to be with the 1-2 punch with him and Williams. But nevertheless, I do think that this Alabama offense continues to improve. They continue to show that they've got weapons and that Bryce Young is the guy that can distribute the football in a lot of different ways. And then the other thing, and I want to kind of get your take on this, I think the play calling has improved, especially since that Texas A&M loss. They seem to be using Brian Robinson a lot more often, especially in the red zone, which I think is a key piece. So what are your thoughts on this offense and how they've continued to improve throughout the season and show that they are worthy of being in the, the college football playoff picture?
Well, for me, I don't know if it's the play calling or the competition. That's the biggest thing. I don't feel like everybody has been playing. In college football, you really only got 5 juggernauts. Everything else is I think the transfer portal has ruined that. So has the play calling got better? In my book, I really don't think so. I think you have a lot of guys stepping up. And this past week, like you said, Bryce did Hey, he used those feet. Is he? I still think it's too early to be talking the Heisman talk. I know he's maybe the front runner. Is he the front runner because this is Alabama, or is he the front runner because he earns those accolades? Those would be my questions. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I'm a fan. Crimson is in my blood, so don't take that the wrong way.
We go to the defensive side of the football, and, there have been some issues on defense. The secondary still needs some work. That showed up against Tennessee. We saw that, of course, a much improved Tennessee team that, I think that has kind of flown under the radar to some degree, but have shown a lot of stride, a lot of improvement, a different Tennessee team than we've seen the past couple of years. But overall, to me, the defense is showing more improvement. Now they have to just stay consistent. I think consistency is the one thing that perhaps is the key word for this Alabama football team, just in general, because I think that in each and every game that they've played, there's been some really great things to hang their hats on, and then some things that maybe not so much. And then you go to the next game and there's something you just expect them to attack in certain areas. And then you see some of those deficiencies and you're like, well, wait a sec. Like last week we saw this and this week we see this. So I think consistency to me is a big area, but man, what about Will Anderson? He continues to be a major threat for this football team. And I feel like he is extremely disruptive on the edge, and that's going to play well against Max Johnson and company there at LSU.
I can't argue with you one bit. If you want to beat Alabama, they're going to single up. They're going to air the ball out. That is the weakest part of, I feel like, our defense. And I say that nicely. But Will Anderson is like the Tim Tebow of college football right now. Smart, articulate, and he can lead the way. But if we put them boys on them islands, like you said consistency. I say discipline. Are they doing what they are doing in practice? Because it seems like whenever you want to beat Alabama, you want to score, it's usually in the air.
I like it. I think you're right. Consistency, discipline, all very important things. That's what the coaches harp on all the time. All right, so Max Johnson, we mentioned that. That's the quarterback at LSU. Obviously, had some good moments, had some bad moments. Can this Alabama football team be disruptive? And, honestly, he doesn't really have a ton of weapons around him, consistent weapons, guys that can make things happen. And, again, depth continues to be an issue for this LSU team. I mentioned it. Or, the fact that Ed O was already talking about, well, they couldn't field a team for their scrimmage. Is it because they're banged up? Is it because guys are in there in the transfer portal? Is it the attitudes? I mean, there's a plethora of things that could be going on there. And if you, as you mentioned, you're losing your head coach at the end of the year, in some ways it's sort of like, all right, well, we're pretty much done now. So I think you have to factor that into this. So are they going to come in, emotional? Are they going to come in ready to play? Or are they going to come in sort of defeated and like, well, you know what? Our coach is leaving us. We're kind of like throwing in the towel. That's it. It's November. Like, let's just get through this season and be done with it. So I think that's going to play into it as well. The energy and enthusiasm that we might potentially see from this LSU team could certainly be that. But again, Nick Saban is always big on emphasizing being careful of going up against teams like this, because it could in fact be a trap game. And we saw that against Texas A&M, and he point blank said that. So with that being said, LSU did upset Florida, but I don't think there'll be any upsets in Tuscaloosa. My prediction for this one, Mike McCoy, 48-17. What you got?
I'm right behind you. I'm kind of close. 42 kind of be my little lucky number. So I'm going to go 42-7. And the reason is because I feel like a couple of them LSU players are going to put film out there for them to get in their transfer portal and vamoose, get up out of there. So that's what I'm looking for. I think it'll be a good game. Well, it'll be a good game until kickoff starts, so. But those are my numbers, 42-7.
Talking a little trash on the field? Yeah, we get it. Trashing the state with litter? That's terrible. Keep it clean. Keep Alabama beautiful.
It's guaranteed that I die legend. Yeah, son God, homie, I'm reverend. Preach, just protecting my investment. Ask about me, integrity's not a question.